Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a review of the LG 34GP63A-B. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's jump into it. All right, now right off the bat, this is a 34-inch ultrawide that is slightly curved. It's got a resolution of 3440 by 1440p, or just ultra-wide 1440p, so you have some extra pixels on the left and the right side, or the left and the right side. Now, like I said, this is also slightly curved. It's got an 1800R curve. Now, if you know anything about curves, this is a slight curve. This is not an intense curve. So if you're one of those people who does not like Samsung's super curved monitors, this is probably not going to bother you. 98 times out of 100 times, I prefer a curved ultrawide to a flat ultrawide. So I definitely prefer it to be curved. It feels much more natural, but again, it is not too curved like a 1000R curve for a 16:9 monitor. Now, as for the panel type, this is a VA panel. Yes, VA panel coming from LG, but honestly, it's pretty good overall. All right, now the refresh rate hits a native 160 Hertz, and this has FreeSync Premium. Now, as far as how FreeSync Premium works with NVIDIA cards, my RTX 3080, it works great. Had no real problems, no screen tearing, no weird stuff like that. NVIDIA recognized it immediately, although it's not G-Sync or even G-Sync compatible, but obviously it works well with G-Sync. We do expect that it works well at this point, especially from LG. Now let's talk brightness and HDR. Now firstly, this is rated for 300 nits of brightness, and after testing, that's what it hit all day long. It was hitting 300 nits. Now this is a good brightness, it's not a great brightness. This means when I was doing your typical workflow style things, writing notes, browsing the web, things like that, shopping on Amazon, things like that, when I was doing all of those, no problems, leave the windows open, can lights on, everything's fine. Now, when I started gaming, I felt like I needed to close the windows. Now, some people may be more prone to that. I'm OCD, and if I see a little reflection and I'm gaming, I'm like, let's close that window. So for this one, I did feel like if you do want to have the best experience possible while gaming or watching movies or something like that, you're probably going to want to dim the lights, close that window. You're not going to want direct sunlight, things like that. So overall, this is good, especially if you're in something like a basement. Zero problems. Don't even worry about it. All right, let's talk HDR. I was expecting, or not expecting, I was hoping. As I said in the unboxing, if you watch that, I was hoping for a really good HDR experience for the price point. I was hoping for a lot more brightness, and it just didn't give that. This is still hitting around 300 nits of brightness in HDR. Now, if HDR is not giving you more brightness, and we don't have a wide enough color gamut here for, it to be able to take advantage of more colors than you're gonna see in SDR, well, there's no reason to have HDR on. It doesn't give you anything at all. Having HDR it's just absolutely pointless. It makes no sense. So HDR is it's not great. However, in the competition, when compared to all the other monitors, there's not really that good of HDR performance here. Obviously, you do have a VA panel, so you get the deep blacks, but you don't get anything else, so there's no point to have it in HDR. Some of the competition has higher brightness, which we will talk about, but you don't gain anything in HDR compared to SDR, so SDR is actually the better setting to have it in. 100% of the time. Not even 99% of the time. 100% of the time. You're never going to use HDR on this. You should not use HDR on this. All right, now we talked about the color gamut, so let's talk about colors now. This covers 99% of the sRGB color space, which is pretty standard in this VA panel ultra-wide space. The competition is pretty much the same. But the thing here is this is calibrated by LG, which notoriously has the best color calibration across the board for gaming monitors. They're just really, really good. It definitely shows here. All right, so let's talk the color temperature. Out of the box, this was literally perfect, hitting 6,586 kelvins with a target of 6,500 kelvins. That is basically an imperceivable difference, even to someone with a very trained eye. I mean, that's really good. That's incredibly uncommon at this price point and higher price points. Even in the $1,000 price range with monitors that come pre-calibrated, we rarely see it that close. We see it close, but we rarely see it that close. So that was really impressive. The color temperature out of the box is great. Gamma's pretty similar of a story here. Gamma was hitting about 2.1 pre-calibrated, just stock, or pre-calibrated but calibrated from the factory. So it was hitting about 2.1 with a 2.2 target. That's pretty good. You can change it into the different modes. They have 4 different modes, so you could up the gamma there. Now, as far as overall accuracy of the actual colors themselves, well, this was across the board too unsaturated. This just needed to be saturated, which is actually funny because most gaming monitors that have really big inconsistencies usually oversaturate things. This one was like very unsaturated. You'll notice that as soon as you get this out of the box. Not a big problem though. Turn your saturation up or do a color calibration. Now, after I did a color calibration for this monitor, which I know most of you probably will not be able to do because the tools are expensive, almost as expensive, well, more expensive depending on the tools than this monitor itself. However, there's a quick fix, and that's what I did in the unboxing. You turn up the red, green, and blue saturation. You just turn it up until it looks pretty good. You're not gonna be doing photo and video editing on this, at least photo and video editing that you need colors that are very good to actually be able to do things accurately. Obviously, you can edit some low-level YouTube videos that don't need color grading or anything like that. But across the board, the reds, the greens, the blues, all of it was undersaturated. So just turning them up, I turned them all up equally, I think to like from 50 to like 62 or 63. Once doing that, it really fixes most of the issues here. The image looks nice. The color temperature is good, so most of the tones look really natural. And yes, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's like 98% there if what you're doing is just gaming and watching YouTube and Netflix and all that. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not bad at all for the price point. So turn the gamma up a little bit, turn the saturation up, you're pretty good to go. Now, contrast ratio here is exactly what you'd expect from a VA panel, and that's a good thing. This hits 3,000 to 1. The blacks are significantly deeper than an IPS panel, and that's, well, arguably the biggest thing that you really get over a traditional IPS panel, where the blacks are kind of bluish. These are much deeper. Not OLED level, but significantly better than IPS. So if that's one of those things that you kind of really care about, I know some people are like, never do a VA panel, but other people will also go, I can never do an IPS panel. This is really just up to personal preference. If you like the deeper blacks, night scenes look nice, deep, and significantly more cinematic than an IPS panel. I mean, this is great. All that stuff, night scenes, dark movies, things like that, they look great. Now for backlight bleed, my unit had absolutely none. I do expect this from LG as they have pretty much the best quality control in the game, at least from my personal experience. Okay, now response time, ghosting, and input lag. This has got to be one of the most important sections of the video. Now, this hits a 5 millisecond gray to gray claimed response time. Okay, doesn't matter. How is ghosting? Well, it's better than a lot of gaming VA panels, but it's not as good as Dell's S3422DWG. And I'm gonna do a big comparison kind of in the price and value section. So stick around for that when we're gonna talk about what's worth it and what you should buy depending on your budget. So the ghosting is the best in the fastest response time setting. Now, when it's in the fastest response time setting, there is definitely ghosting. There is not a absolutely jaw-dropping amount of ghosting like there is on some panels, which is just shocking that they even sell them. But yeah, there is a fair bit of ghosting. Now, for me, it only really bugged me in darker areas, like darker maps in like Battlefield, when I'm quickly whipping around in FPS games. Most of the time, 90% of the time, it didn't bug me. I could definitely notice it, but it didn't bug me. And that's really how this goes. For some people, they won't even notice ghosting. Like I know a lot of people personally that would play on a bunch of monitors and they wouldn't even know the difference. They would just be like, this is great. If you're one of those people, it's great because you can buy a lot of cheaper monitors and be really happy. But if you do notice ghosting, you'd probably want to go then for the Dell S3422DWG, as it does have significantly lower ghosting. Yes, it is at a higher price point, but we'll talk about that. All right, now to wrap this up, input lag. How is it? Well, compared to other 144 Hertz or 160 Hertz monitors, it's very low. I mean, this is exactly what you want. Out of the box, gaming on it, it's nice and quick, it's fast. Honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna have a problem with that. It's great. All right, now menu system and controls. If you guys have watched my reviews for quite a while, you'll know this is LG's last generation menu system, which is really just, the new menu system is really just a reskin of this. Functionality works exactly the same. The controls use a joystick in the bottom middle chin, super easy, zero learning curve, super fast to use. The menu system itself, it's pretty nice looking. It's easy to get to everything. It's clear. It's quick. This is the best menu system in the game. This is the best menu system across the board, with only the later generation of this menu system being better only because it looks awesome. They have a little bit cooler animations. But besides that, this is absolutely the best menu system in the game. It's absolutely perfect. Don't need to do anything to this menu system. All right, now for internal speakers, because yes, this does have internal speakers. One of the very few LG UltraGear monitors that has internal speakers. So they are dual 7-watt speakers. As you would expect, there's like no bass. This has Wave's max audio thing that you can turn on or off. When it's off, the speakers sound absolutely like bad. Like they sound pretty dang bad, but with that setting on, they sound quite good. It's also how it comes factory, so you don't need to mess around with anything there. But the speakers are good. They're nice and clear. They're not quite as good as Samsung's speakers that they're putting in all of theirs. And again, I mean, minimal differences. Who's actually gonna buy a monitor for their speakers? Probably no one, or hopefully no one, because they're not that good. But yeah, they get decently loud. There's no rattle. And if you're just watching a YouTube video or something like that, it's gonna do great for it. But don't expect these to sound good. They're just usable, which is how 99% of monitor speakers are. For Vesa compatibility, this is great. Typical LG fashion is compatible with 100mm by 100mm Vesa mounts, and it has the screws pre-installed in the back, which is a nice touch that all LG monitors have. Ports here are simple, but exactly what you'd expect, having two HDMI 2.0s, one DisplayPort 1.4, and a 3.5mm audio out. Short and sweet. There we go. Now, standard build quality here is good. This is the last generation stand, but the premium stand of the last generation. I think they're doing this to cut down on costs, as they probably have a warehouse full of these stands here, but it's good. The quality is top notch. The plastics look good, they feel good, it's heavy, it's stable, fit and finish is great. I mean, this is the same stand that they put on $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 monitors just a year ago. However, it does lack a little bit of adjustability, having height and tilt and a small amount of rotation to just level it. There's no swivel here, there's no rotation, but honestly, with an ultrawide, are you really gonna use those other things? That's probably my opinion. But overall, this is great here. Okay, but now price and value. Now this thing retails for $399.99, which is a really good price point, a competitive price point. Now, when comparing to the Dell S3422DWG, which is notoriously my most recommended VA panel gaming ultrawide, does it beat this monitor, the Dell? No, it does not. The Dell is still better because of a higher brightness overall, that's both in HDR and SDR, and better ghosting. Now, the Dell is in a $499.99 price tag, so it's $100 more, which is a substantial amount when we are talking about these price points. Now, personally, I would probably pay the extra money for the Dell because I want that higher brightness and I want that lower ghosting, which they did an unbelievable job with. That being said, depending on price fluctuations, or if one of the monitors is on sale and one of the others isn't, you know, if you don't need much higher brightness, which really the Dell gives you mainly in HDR, not SDR, and if ghosting doesn't bother you too much and the LG is on sale, well, this might be a really good deal. But again, if you want better ghosting and a higher brightness in HDR, well, you might want to swing for the Dell. So these two are kind of together. The LG brings it with value at this very low price point, giving a solid overall option for a VA panel gaming ultrawide at a very, very low price point. So overall, do I recommend this monitor? Well, if you want one of the least expensive gaming ultrawides on the market from an extremely good brand, then yes. But if you have a slightly bigger budget, then I recommend the Dell S3422DWG over this due to higher brightness and better ghosting. Again, if you want to check out either of these monitors, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. And if you want to check out my Dell S3422DWG review, which at this point is quite old, but you can check it out right over here. And that would be the review of that. So if you did want to go get that, you might want to check that review out a little bit before, but it was a while ago, okay? So my editing skills are not quite as good, so don't judge me. But yeah, this is Type C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.